Hey everyone, my name is Dallin Einach, and I'm going to go over media queries this week for my student presentation. Um, so I guess I'm going to go off the basics here. Media queries are a set of CSS rules that only apply when certain conditions are met. So they're really useful for creating responsive layouts for your website. So if you want it to look different, of course, on a mobile screen than a large desktop size screen, you could use media queries in order to do that. So, and when I say certain conditions are met, I'll show you in a second, but I'm saying such as when a screen reaches a certain size, that media query will activate and it'll change the code in your CSS. So I'm going to jump over here into my Atom and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I have this basic CSS right here, and all of this right here is going to be my mobile design because I went for a mobile design approach first. So this right here is my website with this code I have right now. And you can see I have it minimized because it's supposed to represent a mobile screen, 466 pixels across. So we have that here. And I want it to change, of course, whenever this screen gets larger because I don't want a desktop to have navigation buttons that stretch all the way across the screen and have the single column layout where you'd have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. So this works fine on a mobile screen, but if we want to change it, you could use media queries to do that. And to declare a media query, all you do is do the @media. And right here, I have only screen. Screen is for it to only change on the screen you're viewing it on. So, but if you were to print the web page, for example, it wouldn't take into account all this code here. It would print based off either if you set a print media query, so you'd be @media print, or it just do the default code. But for right now, I'm just showing you how it changes on the screen. So you do @media to declare the media query, only screen. No, the only keyword is it's just to prevent older browsers from showing you the mobile screen. So that's the only reason that's there. You could use @media screen, and it would work fine on most browsers. But I have @media only screen and minimum width of 480 pixels. So that means whenever the browser width hits 480 pixels, all this code that's in this media query with the brackets here, as you can see, all this code right here will activate and replace whatever code it matches up here. So I have a nav A, for example, in this media query. If I go up to this nav A here, you can see I have all this code declared. It'll replace that once it hits 480 pixels. So I'll go ahead and show you what that does. Let's jump over here to my site. So we're at 466. I'll increase it to 480, and you'll see how it jumps up. So it goes from the column nav buttons to a row. And this would look better on, say, like a tablet or maybe a phone that's in landscape mode. So when you flip the phone sideways, it'll look better. It takes up the screen a little better because you wouldn't want like giant navigation buttons. And it still keeps the single column layout style. So let's go down. That's that media query, and all this will activate at 480. So I have another media query here, the same declaration @media only screen, and then I change it to minimum width of 768 pixels. So of course that means once the browser hits 768 pixels, it's going to go ahead and activate that code. So I'll show you what that does here. Go up all the way to 768. Right there. So 768. So this is going to give you a more, I guess, like traditional header you'd see on your desktop or laptop. It's going to stretch it all out along a single row here. It takes up a good portion of the screen, or it makes better use of the available area for this header. You got your title over here and the nav buttons to your right. I can go ahead and enlarge that a little bit more. And you also notice that it switched to a double column layout. So you see all these articles here or article placeholders, I guess. And then it switched this over from what was on the bottom. If I show you here, it was down there. It goes ahead and pops it over to the side. And that just makes better use of the screen size, because you wouldn't want to go on your desktop, go to this site, and have to just keep scrolling like you would on a phone. You'd like it to just take up a good portion of screen. Also, without the double column, this text would go all the way to the right side of the screen, and then you'd have to jump all the way back here to read it, and that would just make it very difficult and pointless. So at 768 pixels, it's going to switch over to that type of layout, which is much better suited for a laptop or maybe a tablet that's in landscape mode as well. I'm not really sure how many pixels across those are, but yeah. And then lastly, we come down here. I got one last media query declared the same way, except I changed the min width to 1140, and I'll show you what that does. All it's gonna do is enlarge the header just a little bit, as you can see. That's all it does, and that just is mainly for aesthetics. If you have a really large screen, you don't want tiny little buttons and a little small title that you can't really see. You want everything nice and big, take up a good portion of the screen. So that's all it does, and that's considered a minor breakpoint. And breakpoints are the points whenever the media query actually activates. So whenever this hits 1140 pixels across, it hits a breakpoint, changes to that. And I called it a minor breakpoint because it didn't really change too much. It was a very minor thing, mainly for aesthetics, didn't really serve a whole lot of functionality. There's also major breakpoints, which is, as you saw up here, I think it was 480. Yeah, so that's a major breakpoint because that totally changes this navigation bar from a column layout to a row. And then another major breakpoint when it switches to the double column layout and throws the navigation menu up to the right side of the title there, like that. So those two are major breakpoints because they really change the functionality of the site, make it a whole lot easier for the user to use. And so that's those. And I'm not sure if I went over this earlier. I think I did, but I'll just go over it again. The only screen is just only for older browsers. With the newer browsers, you could just put app media screen, and then there's app media print, and the screen is just for the display when you're looking at it on your computer, phone, whatever device you're on. And the print would actually, if you had an app media print, it would print out the page based on whatever's in your media query. And also with media queries, how you structure them is, you structure them by declaring the media and then putting the curly braces around it, and then you have to go and put your elements, your classes, or your ID in that, just as you would on your regular CSS, how we have the class of main with the curly braces and then have the padding there. If you want to change that in here, you'd have to put the class of main curly braces and that. So that's how that works. So yeah, basically, you just want to use media queries whenever you are trying to create a responsive layout. They're very useful because in the past, you had to create a mobile version of your site, a desktop version of your site, and maybe a laptop version of your site. And that's not really sustainable given the fact that we have so many different kind of screen sizes today. It's not a sustainable practice anymore. So media query is really helpful because you can declare the width that you want it to break at and then change it from there. So, and one thing I learned with that is you want to declare it based on how it looks and not popular screen sizes. So you don't want to go look up how many pixels wide is an iPhone, because that's not really sustainable either. You're just recreating the same problem because once the iPhone changes size, for example, you'd have to go and change all the code. What you want to do is you just want to come here and for example, let me go ahead and comment out this media query here. Let's see. I'll just go and comment all that out there. Okay. So, for example, I got to reload this. Well, okay. Okay, sorry about that. No, I was doing wrong. I was forgetting to save the CSS there. That's why it wasn't changing. Okay, so I commented out the media query, so it's just going to be based off this code right here now. I'll show you what I mean. So if we didn't have media queries, this is how this page would look. And that does not look good, obviously. So what you want to do is at the point where you feel like it doesn't look good anymore is when you want to create that breakpoint. Instead of using, like, an iPhone's 480 pixels, for example, let's create a breakpoint there. You just want to wait till it doesn't look good. And in my opinion, it didn't look good at 480 pixels anymore. I thought the buttons were a bit too big. It wasn't making much good use of the available screen space. So I went and created a breakpoint. And decided it looked better like that. Sorry, I keep forgetting to save it there. Decided it looked better like that. And that's how I've been taught that you should use media queries. Just whenever you feel it doesn't look good anymore, just go ahead and change it. And then another thing that I need to go over that I didn't before is that you can also change this to a max width of 480 pixels instead of min width. So what that would do would be this code would activate until it reached a max width of 480 pixels. So, well, let's see if I can show you. I'm not sure what that'll mess it up or not. Okay, yeah, here we go. So now that I have it set to max width of 480 pixels, it's going to take this code and use it until it reaches 480 pixels. And then that's going to jump back up to this code here. So I'll show you. It's at 342. Keep scrolling up to 480. And then boom, it should jump back right there to the default code that we have here. So I'll change that back. You can use min width or max width depending on how you want to go. I know the popular way is to use min width because you want to do the mobile first approach, build your code mobily first, set media queries for when the screen gets larger. So yeah, that's about all I have as far as media queries go. They're a really good, useful tool to use for when you're trying to create a responsive website. Makes things way easier. Otherwise, you'd have to go, like I said, and code all of this for mobile, laptop, PC, all different kinds of screen sizes. So that'd be a real headache. So, yeah, that's the purpose of media queries. You can go ahead and play around with them a little bit and get the feel for them. You can do anything from change the colors to completely lay out the website differently, depending on whenever it reaches these breakpoints here. So yeah, if you have any questions about media queries or anything, feel free to ask me. I feel like I know a pretty decent amount about them. I was trying to fit all this in 15 minutes. There's quite a bit more different ways you can use media queries, and I'm just not really sure I could fit all that in and explain it well in 15 minutes. So if y'all have any questions or anything about media queries or need help understand something a little bit better, just go ahead and send me a message or an email, and I can go ahead and get back to you and try and help you understand a little better. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it.